So at Gamescom this year, 2019, Kojima unveiled 3 new trailers for the upcoming Death Stranding. On the show floor, however, there was an extra trailer that got shown to those who decided to queue up for hours to see it. So the 3 of us got to go see this secret trailer. I'm here with Josh from Games Radar.
Hey, how's it going?
And Oscar from Official PlayStation Magazine.
Pleased to be here.
And I'm Ellen, also from Games Radar. So who wants to start by explaining what on earth we saw?
Well, I guess I'll go first because I was the first person to get up at 9 in the morning to go and see it on the first day of Gamescom to beat the horrible crowds that everyone else had to endure to sort of get in. The trailer was called Briefing, and it sort of, I guess, it set the scene for sort of Death Stranding's main story through lines and what Sam, i.e. Norman Reedus, will sort of be doing throughout the game, which kind of, it sort of paints this picture of the game being this coast-to-coast sort of, adventure wherein he's been tasked with, reconnecting America and putting the pieces of society back together. I think that's about right. It's about as much information as you can discern from a Kojima trailer, I think.
Yeah, but it's a good sort of setup because it very clearly explains what at least the starting mission is for Sam. I mean, there's a lot of elements to it that still haven't really been explained, so I'm sure it will get more complicated as it goes on. But yeah, essentially you're connecting the strands, which are which are the different sort of cities or like prepper stations, because the gameplay trailer with Jeff Keighley, Luden's fan in it, is basically the process of Sam connecting at least one strand, so there'll be several of these throughout. And essentially he's retracing the steps of Amelie, who is the former president's daughter. Is that right?
Yeah,
because there was some confusion, at least online for the last few months, that maybe Amelie and Bridget, who's the sort of dying president you see in some of the trailers, like whether they were the same character. But it seems to be more the case that Amelie's actually Bridget's daughter trying to fulfill her like dying mother's last wish, which was to reunite and reconnect a sort of fractured America.
It looks like she's played by the same actress though, so that might be why it's misleading. Because seeing her in that scene, the previous president, who I assume has now passed away, she's on some kind of hospital bed talking to Sam, and it does look like the exact same actress.
Yeah.
Which makes sense if they want to make it look like her daughter. But in the trailer that we saw, he was talking to Amelie, but she was like a holographic version, right? She wasn't actually there.
So I guess let's go. I think one of the things that I found most sort of striking about that whole video was that it really makes the concept of Death Stranding a game that's been shrouded in just confusion and mystery almost on purpose since it was revealed. It just laid out this really simple vision for it, which is, Amelie tried to do what you're doing herself in sort of, I guess, less dangerous territory. From what this sort of established is, Amelie went with a convoy from, I think it's east to west, from, where you see them in the trailer out to sort of Edge Knot City, which is like on the coast of the Pacific. And she was sort of making this journey to try and bring everyone back together. But on the way, she gets captured supposedly by, is it the Homo Daemons? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is led by Higgs, the guy in the golden mask.
And they want to keep Edge Knot City independent. Essentially, They don't want to be part of the United Cities of America.
Yes, but I think they sort of were saying that there's friction now and aggression because I think it was Central Knot City.
Yeah.
Was destroyed in quote unquote terrorist attack caused by sort of irresponsible use of void outs, which to my understanding is the process of sort of dying and sort of coming back, so going to the other side and coming back, which creates these almost like mini nuclear blasts.
Yeah.
So she's gone, or she's been captured. She doesn't seem to be aging and is now presenting herself to Sam and Die Hardman as this like hologram. She kind of makes a point of saying she's not in a prison, but she's like free to use the facilities and she's free to contact the outside world. She's just not free to leave for whatever reason that might be.
And the whole mention of her not aging because she hasn't seen Sam in 10 years for some unknown reason. But when she says that, she mentions that her body's still on the beach.
Yes.
Which, presumably some kind of reference to the beached things with the BTs that seem to be, one of the major antagonists of the story.
I think that kind of linked into her initial journey, which Sam is retreading now, because didn't they say something about how she can sort of predict where the BTs are because of that link?
He can as well, can't he?
Yes,
he said
he
that he can't see them, but he can. Oh, I don't want to say feel them, but.
So they were able to use her to sort of weave their way more safely through, and then essentially you've got to do the same thing with your BB.
Yeah, that's interesting, because the sort of my read on that trailer was, because probably should mention, while the trailer's playing out and they're going through this, there's like a hologram sort of table, like a green sort of overlay with sort of these like past story beats being replayed. And there was at one point, after they talk about the sort of void outs destroying Central Knot City, they sort of show these, I guess, the BTs, the sort of like as these big sort of towering black like inky monsters that are like connected to the ground with what looked to be like an umbilical cord. So I think sort of signifying that they're tethered to the other side or to a different realm, and that they were now sort of coming in deeper than they'd ever come before, which to me sort of signified that it was because of those void outs from Higgs that this is why this is happening now. Like that's a direct result of what happened, hence why we need things like the BBs to navigate those spaces now, because that whole process has made it more dangerous.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a link between them somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to remember the names of some of these characters as well, because isn't Amelie's name Amelie America Strand?
It is. Well, he says Samantha America Strand, doesn't he?
Oh, yes.
That's what I've got written down.
So what's the deal with names then?
I don't know, because he then says I'm not...
Because he says that he's not a Strand anymore. He's now Sam Porter Bridges.
Yeah.
So there's something weird going on with that. Like,
maybe it's like a Game of Thrones style sand and snow type.
I just assume that everyone only has a first name in this world, and I'm trying my best to ignore the surnames because it seems like constant misdirection.
Well, I was wondering if there was, because they keep hinting at, for some reason, why Sam is already sort of split from that group.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if sort of when he was removed from being a Strand or whatever as part of their group, if sort of being Bridges is sort of a kind of exile for him.
I just assumed that Strand was like a job. Like, and Die Hardman runs like the postal service, and Strand is like working for USPS, and he's like, I'm not a Strand anymore, like I'm not a postman anymore, I'm
Handed
free.
in my notice.
Yeah, that's what I sort of assumed, and that maybe he's like, I used to like deliver parcels for you, and now I don't do it anymore, so like you can't ask me to do things.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a sort of, I definitely got the sense they were offering him some sort of maybe a quote-unquote sort of redemption quest, redemption mission, in a similar way to... I got vibes of along the lines of films like, Escape from New York and stuff, which is obviously connected to Kojima's headspace anyway, because the character Snake Plissken from those movies was a heavy inspiration for Solid Snake. So the necklace, the Death Stranding bling.
Yeah, Death Stranding bling,
which will probably be for sale at some point.
Oh, absolutely, already is. Like, so I loved this because it was like, for the last like 12 months or whatever, it's been like a constant source of like sending the internet into like a meltdown because it's got all of these equations like transcribed on the edge of them, and like, oh, it defies gravity, and it turns out it's basically a key that just opens up a communication box, like a telephone engineer coming to fix your broadband or something. Like, that's it. Like the
you're taking all the magic out of this.
Listen,
talking about the postal service and broadband.
It's called the Cupid. Yeah.
Like with the letter Q and then PID.
Yes. So the general concept is you're taking the Cupid to each, as you're going across America, you're taking the Cupid to each of these, I think they were chiral terminals, and you're basically activating the terminal with the key. It's using each of the, I think it's 6 keys on the sort of necklace to run through security protocols, and then it unlocks it and connects it to the wider network, which will allow sort of, Emily or Bridget or whoever it is to sort of continue spreading this message of hope that we don't need to fight anymore, that we can come together. I guess that's basically the read of the key, right? I remember seeing in the Jeff Keighley sort of video, when he does the scan of the area, you see it push out and it's like blue, and then there's like a barrier that's got crosses on it that's red, which I assume means the red territory is just out of reach of the chiral network, so you'll have like a clear distinction of which areas you've unlocked and which ones you haven't, kind of like in Assassin's Creed. When you pull the map up, go to the top of the tower, do the synchronization, and then the waypoints would start like consuming all of your attention. I think the one thing I'm not like super clear on still is just how the actual delivery side of this works, because I assume you're supposed to be making deliveries, so picking up fetch quests for characters in these sort of isolated areas to not only reconnect the chiral terminals, but to like rebuild a sort of relationship between like whatever remains of the central government.
Yeah.
And to be like, don't worry, like we haven't abandoned you, like here's like the 12 leaves that you wanted in this big box or whatever it is. Like,
isn't he carrying what looks like a body on his back at one point, wrapped in some kind of body bag?
And this could be incorrect because it's very hard to follow certain elements of this game, but I think the service run by Die Hardman is like a body delivery service. Like, I think it's like I'm pretty sure I remember seeing something about that. Like, it is a service designed to move items like that.
Die Hardman or Deadman?
Oh, don't go down this.
Die Hardman, the guy with the black mask, who runs the like Strand service or like whatever it's called.
Who was in the trailer.
Yeah,
Wasn't released.
Deadman
is just responsible for plugging upset BBs into a wireless womb that connects to a different city.
Yeah.
That's what he's there for.
Glad we got that cleared up.
There's the implication that at the end of this, connecting all the different strands, you'll be then bringing Amelie back from, what was it, Edge Knot City?
Yeah.
To her rightful place as ruler of the world.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the next sort of stage of speculation begins, isn't it?
It's like, what happens when you reach Edge Knot City? Is that what you're thinking? Or
yeah, like, because that's supposedly the end destination.
Or
but if she's
the
not,
beginning.
No,
of the first in the genre.
It's the end. It's the end of the destination.
It makes me... not to go off a tangent, it does remind me a little bit of, like, in MGS3 when you finally get to the Volgin's base, and then that's only like halfway through the game, right? There's still like way more of the game after that, so I was kind of wondering if maybe it's gonna like kick off in like another element once you get there, which it probably will.
I mean, it probably will,
because we still don't really know anything about Cliff. Is it Cliff? Mads
It's Cliff.
Mikkelsen's character.
Oh, the one that kind of looks like
Mads Mikkelsen.
he's on both sides. Yeah.
Shocker.
He looks like he's been on both sides, because in some parts of the trailer he's kind of the inky black mass that we've been talking about, but in other times he's singing to BBs and getting everyone excited.
I mean, I would sincerely hope that you get to the Edge Knot City and it kickstarts what is effectively a second chapter.
Yeah.
However, it is worth remembering the team and expertise, I suppose, that Kojima Productions currently has available to it compared to what was available at Kojima Productions in the like prime of Metal Gear Solid. It's probably not the same. Like, Sony were funding or are assisting with funding to a degree with Death Stranding, to my understanding, but the reality of this is it's a brand new studio working with an engine that nobody outside of Guerrilla has ever used to make a weird, disparate action game. I don't know actually how much of it, that maybe that's why we've seen so little of it, is because there's actually only traversal of this big space that's sort of 3D mapped based on based on Iceland.
Only one letter off.
Well, I'm close. Based on Iceland. And then there is also this sort of weird other side section, which is where a lot of the sort of time and resources have gone into making these like weird, like World War inspired spaces, and sort of the weird ashy rain areas where where you're gonna come back after you die. I don't know. I just, at a core level, I like the idea of this having a simple mission, because it's something to actually grasp hold of.
Yeah.
You know, so much of this has just been like weird esoteric sci-fi, and that's great, but like, you know, 2001 AD has a relatively simple story at the heart of it. The Matrix has a relatively simple story at the heart of it, and whatever sci-fi, like whatever good sci-fi has a core idea at the middle, and then everything else that's weird and confusing is like extra cool shit on top.
Yeah.
And I like that we finally know what the core of Death Stranding is, instead of it just being constant mystery that no one can understand. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see what twists and turns happen along the way, because I'm sure there'll be some complications to the mission, obviously. But yeah, I mean, the big thing is we've not really seen much of the points where you've got to connect, apart from Keely's home base.
Yeah.
And obviously that's just, you go to the door of it and you don't see inside, and you probably won't. Just to see them
And then he
hologram-wise.
dances as you leave.
Yeah. So, you know, whether or not there'll be like at least a couple of settlements that are maybe a little bit more built out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm super. This is probably the most excited I've actually been for Death Stranding.
Yeah, me too.
They haven't shown any or spoken about anything like solid that you can grasp hold of, and we finally have it. So let's have it. Like, let's go. Like, we've barely seen any gameplay. Like, he says it's not a stealth game, but the only sort of combat I've seen is him sneaking through grass, and then when being chased, running around in a Benny Hill-esque sort of, you know, run around in circles. That's it.
You do get a motorbike there.
And you apparently get a motorbike, and then, but when he goes into Jeff Keighley's house, it does say there is like a thing, it's like weapons,
Keighley's house.
weapons disabled, and it's like, okay, well, like what weapons?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, because it doesn't look like he has any on him, unless it's
I think his only weapon at this point is urination.
maybe.
That's all we have confirmed.
I mean, that is dangerous.
Which they did say could be used as a weapon.
Yeah, it's pretty dark if that gets disabled when you go into Jeff Keighley's house. That's it. It's not
Maybe that's why.
beyond realms of possibility, but
God.
But no bathroom in that house.
that's what. So whatever comes out between now and the November 8th release date, you can keep checking back on Games Radar for more information and
a deeper dive into Death Stranding in issue 167 of Official PlayStation Magazine.
Yep. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.